under eminent domain and urban renewal policies, and all got displaced. And there was this whole kind of like vibrant
All right, I think we're ready to start.
We're prepared.
Okay, you all set?
Recording in progress.
Okay, hello, everybody.
This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Public Facilities Committee. And here at the beginning of the meeting, from the committee are Councilor Leary, the Vice Chair, Councilor Getz, Councilor Kelly, Councilor Kalis, yay, he's in person, and Councilor Dan Hurd, and myself, Councilor Albright. And we have other councilors in the room. We have Councilor Oliver and Councilor Bixby. We have Councilor Klinsman, Councilor Lucas, Councilor Block. So I think that's it for councilors. Who? Councilor Malachi's there?
Yep.
Why don't I see her? Oh, there you are, right, then, okay. Okay, so. We have our first items have to do with community preservation, but in case anybody is here to only talk about the last item, I just wanted to say that it's our intention to hold that last item, which is the free cash item of 2.5 million for school facility projects. It is our intention to put all of those free cash items on agenda on May 29th. So Public Facilities Committee, please clear your calendars for May 29th. And all those free cash items as well as the bullet fund would be on that night.
Do you want me?
So when we get there, and we've been joined by President Laredo, from Board 7, member of the committee. So our first item is 8625. CPC recommendation, Conservation Community Preservation Committee recommending appropriation of $75,000 to be appropriated from the unrestricted fire fund for expenses relating to the replacement of the deck at the Newton Community Farm. And we are joined by Molly Hutchins, right?
Yes.
Who's going to tell us about this, and also by Susan Moon, and is she the chair
Yes.
of community preservation?
Yes, I'm here.
Great to have you here.
So I'll operate the PowerPoint and Susan will do the presentation. And here we are.
Our first presentation is about the deck on the community farm. And the scope of the project is to replace the deck at the Newton Community Farm located off the barn structure. I hope many of you have been there. The main deck structure is showing significant rot and is fully rebuilding the structure is necessary for visitor safety and for its continued use. The deck was previously constructed with CPA funds in 2010, and the rot that is seen now is the result of the deck neither being covered or weatherproofed at that time. The CPC voted unanimously to fund the repair of the deck, provided that the new construction resolved these issues. The farm has chosen a more durable composite material for the deck. It's called Trex, in answer to our suggestion. It's project eligibility and community need. The farm has used the deck to host community events, including many children's programs and adult education classes, tours, and volunteer groups. And the Newton Community Farm supports, through its produce, other important community organizations, such as the Newton Food Pantry and the Newton Fridge. This project is eligible for our category of recreational funding. And they have asked for $75,000. And as stated previously, our committee voted unanimously to award this and rebuild this deck. Do we have any questions?
Councilor Denver.
Yes, thank you very much. Was the deck, was the underpinnings of were the underpinnings of the deck, in other words, the framework of the deck, done in pressure treated lumber?
For this time, I do not think that they were, no. But the next time they will be.
I have to say that it was very short-sighted of the city to have built a deck that both had, no protection, no, staining to protect the wood on the top, and that did not have pressure treated, lumber underneath. So in other words, we're gonna have to destroy the entire deck that we built in 2010 and build it from scratch. I certainly hope that this time we're gonna do pressure treated lumber on, underneath, and that we're gonna do Trex on the top. Is
Um,
there, is
there-
that,
That is the plan. And I think that it did get 15 good years, you know, and I'm not exactly sure. Trex, I know, is a wood substitute product and will last a very, very long time. Pressure treated lumber will last a very long time. But I don't think that these are timeless kind of things. I think they do have a life. And this one had a life that was a little too short. So that's why they're making these improvements.
yes, go ahead.
I'd like to add too, the original design for the deck was covered, and they never completed the cover for it, which allowed
Oh,
materials that were not suited to be an uncovered deck to run. So that is like at the heart of the issue, that the cover was never built.
yeah, I'm sorry to hear that the cover was never built, and I'm also sorry to hear that even though it was gonna be built with a cover, that it wasn't built with a pressure treated, framework. That is, very unfortunate, and I hope it never happens again.
I'm curious, does anybody check up on these projects to see if they were actually built according to plan?
So, I don't know what our process was in 2010, but now, they come in for a final report. And they, to get the last 10% of funding, they show completion or near completion photos, they give a budget update, what was actually spent, and narrative of anything that might have come up and gone wrong in the process. So that's our best, and we can ask for, especially on bigger projects, more intermediate updates. But every project has a final update, and that I think would have prevented this kind of situation.
Thank you.
Hales.
Yeah, I do support this, absolutely. 75,000 for a deck seems like a lot. I'm wondering if, Mr. Morse, Commissioner Morse, can just give us some of his thoughts. Does that sound right?
So I actually had the pleasure of attending the Community Preservation Committee meeting when this item was discussed. And if memory serves me correct, and Molly and Susie, feel free to correct me, but I believe that they acknowledge they're being a little generous here because they don't want to have to come back. They want to make sure that this is a one and done, but they made it clear they're not going to gild the lily. They're not going to spend any more than they have to. If they're able to turn money back, they will absolutely do that. But I'm happy to work with them if they have any questions. The building department is here to help.
Okay.
Just one
Yes.
more question. How many square feet is the deck?
Pastor Denver.
How many square feet approximately is the deck, do you know?
I do have that information available, I don't know it off the top of my head, but I can pull up the drawings that, actually submitted original drawings. I'll see what I have for that, I think I have that number soon.
Counselor Kelly.
Thank you. I share Councilor Danberg's chagrin that it was built this way in the first place. And I'm wondering, do you know why the cover was not built? Was that just an economic fiscal matter? So it was approved, but it didn't get built because they ran out of money or something?
I believe so.
Okay, Trex is a great material. I agree with Councilor Kalis that $75,000 does seem expensive. It is a large deck and you're gonna have to do demolition and removal and all of that. So I can see it even being in the $45,000 range. I know CPC funds don't get spent, they go back and can be reused, so I don't think we should worry too much about that. And I agree that budgeting over rather than coming back is a good idea. I'm glad it will be done differently this time, but it was really, all of it was very short-sighted.
Council Leary and then Council Gantz.
So some very good points by my colleagues. That doesn't leave me that much to talk about, except, first of all, I totally support this and I support the farm. And, Molly, I'm really glad that we're like doing no facts now and having more follow-up. In the past, we've had CPA projects that were problematic. One in my ward, Harville Park. That is a constant, like it leaks, it was a project to manage that.
We fixed it.
We fixed it?
Yes.
Okay.
Just this year anyways.
Okay. But I know it's been going on for a long time, but
Yes.
I was just saying, it's a great project and it's lovely and it's a beautiful park. But I do with our CPA, our very, dear CPA funds. I think, I think the point's been made, but, that we really wanna make sure that we're doing it right the first time, and if we have to pay a little more first. To make a good product, but project management is so important. And then just having the follow-up also to our projects is really important. So that's it, but I would totally support it, and we love the farm. Yeah.
And I should add that, Ricky, who I'm sure you all know, has gone out and taken a look at the project, and that, Josh and his team are very involved in the work.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Councilor Gasker, I'm just on page 23 and I'm looking at the estimate from this Dexos company. They're actually gonna build a roof. And there's gonna be structural framing. So the deck measurement is like 29.5 feet by 19 feet.
That's
So-
what I'm gonna look for.
Okay.
Okay.
It does include framing and it does include the demo and the dumpster and the footings. So, but are these competitive bids? Cause I'm only seeing the one, estimate here. And I don't know, is this, are the 3 estimates that you normally get and then you pick the best one? I don't know if that process happens in this process.
Josh, can you speak to that?
I'd be happy to. So yes, this would be competitively bid. I think they worked with a contractor just to get a budgetary price, and then we would bid it out.
Okay, so the number may change. Okay.
We hope it will. We hope it will come
Okay.
down.
Oh,
Seems
so
like
it's
it
gonna be
is.
covered,
Yeah.
so this is really
Yeah.
bad,
Yeah.
They're building to the original plans,
Oh.
but
but this time they're really good, with different materials.
with different materials.
Any other questions? Councilor Kalis?
I mean,
Okay.
so is the Trex necessary if it's gonna have a cover?
Yes,
I don't think so. The water situation is
Okay.
only getting worse.
it's a composite that will last so much longer than any treated wood.
Yeah.
Alright,
And it doesn't splinter.
yeah,
You never buy them.
It's a forever. It's a forever.
and the appropriate time.
Okay.
I'll look this for.
Okay, tomorrow.
Yeah, really, it's really.
Can you make, unmute Farrell?
Councilor Farrell, you're muted.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that I'm in full support of this. I've been over to the farm many, many times. I think the work they do is just incredible. The working with young people and introducing them to agricultural and environmental issues is very important, and this will stabilize the programming because it is not a stable facility that they have right at the moment. And I have full confidence in Commissioner Morse working with them to ensure that this is done properly. But I thank you for your consideration and hope that you will approve this project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Melody?
Yeah, I just checking, I assume, the pressure treated wood, that's gonna be well away from the farm area or anywhere where water runoff could, be an issue. My understanding is they still use sort of arsenic compounds to pressure treat the wood.
Council, Commissioner, Morse, can you comment? on
Yeah,
that?
happy to. So the location of the deck, and I can pull up an aerial if that's helpful. I don't have it at the ready, but the deck location is fairly removed from the farming operations. So I think we're in pretty good standing on that front.
Okay, thank you.
So Commissioner Morse, is your department gonna stay involved as this deck gets built?
We are.
Okay, that makes me feel better. So Counselor Kalis, Counselor Kalis has made a motion to approve. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay,
Second of us.
next one down.
There are 7 of us, is that right?
There's 7 of us, yes. Right, okay, the next one is, that's my job, 8725. Community Preservation Committee recommending appropriation of $214,300 in Community Preservation Act funding for architecture, engineering, and investigative expenses in the War Memorial Stairs restoration.
We'll be so sick of me, the same
Not at
last
all.
night and 2 presentations
Not at all.
tonight.
You
Yeah.
guys are that close.
We'll be, you'll be well acquainted with my slide format. The War Memorial Stairs is our second project tonight. And, poor Josh is gonna have to answer more questions about this one as well, but, Susan, if you wanna take it away.
I can, the project scope and eligibility. This funding is for the first phase of of the larger project, which would comprise of a complete structural restoration, waterproofing, rehabilitation, and improvement to the deteriorated exterior element of the granite stairs and wall. New handrails will be installed to meet the recent building code. The deterioration of the mortar joints and steps is due to water infiltration. The project is eligible for historic resource funding, as the City Hall building is listed individually on the National Register of Historic Places. This application previously came before the committee in 2019 for 100% funding for both phases. And at that time, the committee did not wish to commit the full cost up front. In this new project application, the Public Facilities has applied for 100% of funding for the architecture, engineering, and investigation phase. The committee voted unanimously to approve this proposal in the hope that through the investigation, Public Facilities may be able to apply for construction funding with a more informed cost estimate. The Newton City Hall and War Memorial was constructed in 1932 and designed by Allen and Collins architects. The War Memorial, including the stairs, auditorium, and exhibits, were part of a post-World War I architectural and social movement across the country to honor veterans. By restoring the stairs, Newton would continue to honor residents who have served in the armed forces. And the from our unrestricted prior year funds, we would like to award $189,300.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I originally accidentally included Josh's staff time in the request, so it came down a little bit.
Okay. So what is that?
The 214 number included the expenses that Public Facilities is gonna be providing through staff. Oh, sorry, excuse me, Public Buildings is gonna provide through Josh and other staff time. So the actual request for CPA funding is 189.
We'll have to, okay, move that as amended, yeah. Is that the end of the presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
So why was there a 5-year delay between 2019 and then?
Almost 6.
Almost 6, but I'm being generous.
You are.
I'm happy to answer that if you'd like.
Please.
Sure.
So I think the challenge with this project, and it's why we're approaching it the way we are this time, is that we don't really know what we don't know. We don't know what's going on underneath the stairs. And because of that, in 2019, when we approached the Community Preservation Committee, we were assuming kind of worst case scenario that we had to do a lot of infill compaction, some structural work underneath the stairs. But we really don't know that until we remove some of those stairs, get a better look underneath, understand what's going on, and it could have a pretty profound impact on what the cost of the construction will be. So the theory, and the CPC, I think, picked up on that. They just looked at it and said, this is a lot of money. We don't really know if we're going to need to expend this much money. We're not, and I don't want to speak for them, but I am speaking for them because I was at the meeting. We're not comfortable giving out this amount of money, the whole project, when we don't really know if we're going to need to spend that much. So when it was not selected by the Community Preservation Committee in 2019, it continued to stand fairly high in our capital improvement plan. And quite frankly, the next year the pandemic hit, and it kind of set us back a bit with respect to projects that were getting funded, keeping in mind that the War Memorial Stairs is not at the very top of our CIP. Like a lot of CPC projects and historic preservation projects, they tend to be a little further down. But as I think the pictures illustrate, the conditions out there are certainly getting worse. They're not getting any better. So we took another run at it, and with this modified approach, I think it's going to really help inform the Community Preservation Committee, certainly public buildings, and ultimately the City Council and the Mayor's office, with respect to what our construction scope and therefore our construction cost and budget would need to be.
So to be clear, I fully agree with the idea that you broke it up as suggested. Do the investigation, see what the cost is. I'm not sure I fully understand why it took from 2019 to now for the administration to reactivate something, particularly because when it's being paid with CPA money and not coming out of the budget. So Mr. Yo isn't in for that.
So I was about to introduce you, so I haven't done that, and let me do that. We're also joined by our Chief Operating Officer, Jonathan Yo,
Yeah.
who now would like to say something.
Yeah, I think Josh had a part of the explanation. The pandemic hit the next year, and also frankly, there was a lot of opposition by city councilors and others to funding any of this project. So it's that, and so in the meantime, the CPC ended up funding a lot of non-city assets with millions of dollars on historic projects, bell towers and other things. So you know, I think we decided to take another run at this and see if we have a very different CPC than we did back then in city council. So
Are you saying there was opposition on the CPC?
I would like to speak.
oh, there was lots of opposition. Yeah,
Okay,
I'm not looking at anyone.
you're not looking at the city council for saying there was opposition.
There was, yes, there was, yeah,
And I can tell you why.
yeah. So,
I think
yeah, and so in the
I don't want to
meantime,
be angry.
millions of dollars of CPC money have been spent on non-city historic assets, while our stairs, you know, have gotten worse. And so we've decided to take another run at this with the hope that we'd be able to get funding.
I think it's a wonderful idea, so I'm not gonna say anything more.
Yeah, it's-
How's that?
Yeah.
frankly, it's dangerous the way it is now.
Agreed,
There's-
and you
Get
know,
it done.
yeah, let's get it done.
Councilor Leary?
Yeah, first, I wanna say, the way that this is presented, I fully support it, and I think it needs to be done. But part of the history of this, first of all, the Community Preservation Act is known as the people's purse. And it's supposed to be driven by people in the community who wanna do projects. And what happens sometimes too often is that those funds are appropriated for projects that should be part of the capital improvement plan. And also, it was for the whole cost of the stairs, which was a lot of money. That's why now if the city has skin in the game to this, and that's a different story, but that's,
We don't at this point, so.
okay,
yeah.
well, this is a much lower amount and it's investigative. and
Let's
so-
investigate it first and we'll come back.
Again, I support the project, Mr. Yo, but I just wanted to explain that the Community Preservation Act, in terms of best practices. The reason we did bell towers and private things and Farlow Park is because that's what people in the community wanted. And of course, we still wanna help.
Yeah, and we
storage
decide
project.
whether to.
The city
fix it
too,
or
but it's a balance, that's all.
Yeah.
And the CPA always likes to have, funding from different sources and rather than have the CPA pay the full boat, the full ride.
I would say the characterization, both that Josh gave of the discussion at the CPC meeting where he presented the proposal. And the changes in the committee members both ring true to me. I think the CPC was very supportive of the investigative work. They did, and Susan, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. It was made clear that 100% of funding now is not necessarily 100% of a future phase of funding. But we're gonna get there when we get there and decide on that proposal when it comes in, rather than make a decision now.
Well, when appropriate, I would make a motion.
Okay.
Councilor Kelly? Oh, thanks. I agree that these stairs are in bad shape and they're dangerous and not reflecting well of a city monumental building, and I hope that they get fixed. And I remember when it was before us last time, which was almost 6 years ago, which is a shame. Because I think they really need work. They need a new railing. I think this price also seems very high for design, architecture, engineering, and investigative. But again, as Commissioner Moore said, you don't really know until you get into the investigative stuff, how deeply you have to go. It certainly makes me question how much the next phase 2 is gonna be. And like Councilor Leary said, I hope that there are other sources of funding that is not funded solely through CPC, that city has some piece of it and there are other, I mean, that's part of CPC is piecing together different pieces. And I would not be inclined to support the next part if it weren't like that, though right now I think that this should be done and I will be voting in favor.
Just a quick question, if I may, Madam Chair. Is there gonna be any review of accessibility as part of this study?
Well, there's a,
I mean, it's the stairs, so
Requirement.
there's an
I,
elevator there now.
right, I know there's an elevator now, and it's.
Yeah, I think in the first plan, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, there was discussion of accessibility due to the railing. I don't recall whether that would be looked at in this study. Is that, okay, Molly's shaking her head, yes. They will.
Yeah. So we have to. It's a great question, Councilor Laredo. I think oftentimes people think that when you're dealing with something like a grand staircase like this, that it's an all or nothing proposition. You either make it universally accessible with a massive switchback ramp, or you do nothing. And that's actually not the case. You can have accessibility improvements. So those railings will help people who maybe have mobility challenges or who are, visually impaired. So we will be doing an accessibility review. It will probably mean working with the MAAB, the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board. But this is common. There are a lot of large staircases at grand buildings that get tackled like this. And I just wanted to also mention that the design funds, we are not going to spend any more than we have to confirm what the root cause is and what we think the cost of this is. We're going to go back to the CPC and then ultimately the city council to update you as soon as we kind of get through feasibility and that exploratory work, so that we understand, is this a much smaller project? And then if so, we're going to use the design funds that have been authorized to further that design for that smaller project. Or is it a much larger project? And maybe at that point, CPC says, well, if it's much larger, then we're going to need a cost share. And if that's the case, then we got to work with the administration. But again, to Molly's point, we'll know more when we get there.
I'm all sure, thank you.
There's just one thing I'd like to add to Josh's enormous credit, that any other public project that Public Buildings has worked on, where there's a large amount allocated to design that isn't used up, a lot of times we're able to then use that for the construction administration in the next phase of the project. That's what happened at Gas Pool. It's what happened on a lot of other projects. So that is a possibility as well.
Thank you. I know my list.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be supporting this project. I think it's a very good idea that we spend money to understand what the extent of the damage is in the underpinnings, so that we get a better estimate of how much it's gonna be going forward. This is a really important project in this city. All of the arts groups, all of the activities and events that go on in War Memorial Auditorium this weekend. Highland Blue Club is, by the way, having
There's like 4 things this weekend.
yes, there lots of activity every weekend. And while it's great for everybody to be able to have the opportunity to take the elevator, most people or many people would like to go up that staircase, myself included. And I would also like to have a railing just because it's safer. This is it's unfortunate that we've had to wait until now. In the time that I've been an alderman and a city councilor, I've always, every time I look at that staircase, I think, when are we gonna get to this? Do we have a timeline for when we're expecting to have an answer, or when are we gonna go out to do we have a consulting group that is gonna be doing this already, and what's their time frame?
It's this summer, correct, Josh?
It is, yeah. I would say within 48 hours of the city council authorizing the funds, we'll mobilize.
Okay, that's very good news, and I hope that we can, likewise, as soon as we know what's underneath. And we know what the scope of work is, that we move forward. This used to, I think, for the first 100 and some odd years, of its existence, well, actually 1932, it's not quite 100 years, was in my ward, but it's now in Ward 2. So,
It's a shared space here. It
It's
belongs to all the boards.
yes, belongs to everybody. Okay, good, so, yes, I'm very much in favor, and I'm glad.
I just have one question. Some in the pictures of the steps, in a couple of those pictures, it says historic window replacement. What does that have to do with anything?
That might be a holdover from another application.
Okay, it says provide historic window replacement. In several of the pictures, it says that. You think these are old pictures that were left over from 5 years ago?
I know, Rafiq, when he submitted, he used a lot of the material he submitted in 2019 and updated it, so there may have been something. There's no window replacement as part.
So I think that should specifically be in the minutes then. There is no window replacement attached to this project. Not that we don't need it, but it's not part of it.
You can update those before they come back for phase 2, just to references to windows.
Yeah, I didn't catch that, and if I would have cleared it up if I had.
Okay, good. So so Council Leary has moved approval.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And it's approved 7-0. 48 hours, Josh. Well, wait till May.
Oh, that's true,
until
until
we
we meet.
The whole council. Yeah. Okay. The next item, we'll be getting into budget.
Thank you.
Thank you, Molly.
Next week.
Thank you, Molly.
So I will read these into the record. This is 351-24. So they're submitting a capital improvement plan for 2026 to 2030. 125, Toronto Mayor submitting in accordance with section 5.1 of the city charter, the operating budget. And 8225, the supplemental, the 26 to 30 supplemental capital improvement plan. And Commissioner Morse, you're on.
Thank you very much, Counselor. So I appreciate everybody taking the time this evening. If I occasionally mute to cough, I apologize. I'm a little under the weather. I feel good, but I sound horrible. First of all, thank you very much. It's always exciting to come before public facilities to talk about my budget. In the backup, you will see some very familiar documents. We have our updated lessons learned. Shout out to then Alderman Lappin, who requested this many years, and we made it happen, and we continue to update it each year with lessons learned from the previous year's projects and efforts. And I'll go through that and highlight some of the latest lessons learned that we've included there. You'll also find our updated less than 75 list, Shout out to former counselor Deb Crosley, who this one was near and dear to her heart. I update this each year. I take projects off that we've completed. I add new projects that kind of bubble up. So you'll see that's been updated. And just for counselors, just to refresh your memory, capital improvement plan covers projects over 75,000. There was a time when the projects that were less than 75,000 really didn't have a funding source. But what we've seen is that through the work with the mayor's office, we've been able to beef up our less than 75 line item, which I'll talk about when we talk about the budget. And that allows us to tackle these smaller municipal projects. In addition, we have benefited from being the recipient of free cash over the years, more recently than many years back, where we've been able to tackle a lot of these smaller projects using free cash. So that's another way that we tackle that list. You'll also see in there that I provided my latest comprehensive capital project update. I do those about every couple months, and I send them out to to my larger listserv. I push them out through social media. Speaking of social media, I included in our outreach to the Public Facilities Committee, or in the backup rather, that we have a Facebook page, a Twitter page, an Instagram page, and a YouTube page for the department. I push a lot of information out through social media. I'm very active there, but I also have done a lot of video tours of our construction projects, which are very, very popular among the parents and user groups in the community. It gives them an opportunity to step inside the building and see it kind of come to life, which I think is really, really exciting for us. I like doing it, and I like the positive impacts that we get from people. I will say in the comprehensive capital project updates, I think part of the reason why I've shifted a lot of this to email and social media is that we're living in a different world now, and you all experience this. Getting people to come to an in-person meeting is almost impossible. And I would say getting people to come to a remote meeting is also becoming very challenging. People have busy lives, whether it's picking the kids up from practice, or, they're working late. What I've found is that people are far more inclined now to watch a meeting recording at their leisure, fast forward through the sections that they don't find terribly interesting, and then ask their questions by email or through social media. So I think it's important. We've gone to where the people are, and I think that's paid dividends for us. That's not to say that we don't continue to have meetings. For example, we do monthly community construction meetings for as long as people attend. So for the Cooper Center project, we've done a monthly since the project started, and it's great. We have a hardcore following of our seniors in Newton. I think it's as much a social hour as anything else, but it's great. It's a good opportunity for me to update them, for them to ask questions. And a lot of those people have become my friends over the last 8 years. So it's an exciting way to show what we're doing and stay connected with the community. We're doing that with our school projects too. With the schools, I think it's a different demographic that we're serving. So there we see far less people who come to our meetings, but far more people who watch the meeting recording and then ask their questions afterwards. And I think that just speaks to the amount of time people have in their lives. It's different when you're a senior and retired versus when you're not. So with that, I'm going to share some documents, and I will roll through things here. First, I'm going to cover our large capital projects. All right, can everybody see my screen?
Oh.
Is that good?
Fine.
Okay, great. So this is the March edition. Like I said, I do this about every 2 months, provided, depending on what's going on. So I cover kind of our large capital projects, in this case, Lincoln Elliott Cooper Center, Countryside, Horace Mann, and Franklin. I've said this before, but it bears repeating. Newton finds itself in the busiest period of municipal building construction since the response to the baby boom. we are firing on all cylinders. We have so much going on in the public buildings department. It is amazing. And I'll say this a couple times this evening, but it is a testament to the incredible team that I have the pleasure of working with in public buildings. I have an incredible staff, and I'll call them out as we make our way through. So Lincoln Elliott project, just to give everybody a sense as to where we are, we're in the home stretch. I sent out a updated video tour that I took this morning to the community and to the city council. We are at this point doing final inspections, punch lists. We've still got some work to do. The outside of the site, if you're driving by, it's going to look like we're nowhere near complete, but the outside is the last part to be done. We're putting down a rubberized safety surfacing on the playground. Sod will be going in next week, as well as landscaping. We're also preparing the staff parking lot, the bus and van loop. The gym floor is going down today. The auditorium is looking great. It's got our acoustical panels are all hung. It's looking very, very impressive. The rest of the kind of classrooms and academic areas are really, I would say 97, 98% complete. We're in really good shape. So the plan is substantial completion. I believe we're looking at early June. And then we're going to take the summer to move the Lincoln Elliott School from 191 Pearl into 150 Jackson, their new home. And as soon as we move them, we're going to move the Horace Mann School from 225 Nevada Street to 191 Pearl Street so that we can start construction in the building at Horace Mann, which we've already started construction on the outside. But I'll get to that in a sec. The Lincoln Elliott project, so we're on time and we are within our budget that was approved, so we are in good shape there. Looking forward to finishing strong. Because we're in really good shape from our budget standpoint, there are a few things I'll point out. We are working with some of the direct abutters on some landscaping that we had initially wanted to include, but our budget was a little tight. So we've got a little bit more that we're going to be doing, I think, more on the north side of the building. We're also working with Maura Morse, the principal, and the Nonantum community on a little planting bed, a little like garden, fenced in garden, which they have something like that over at 191 Pearl now. So I think that's going to be something that it's small, but it'll be impactful to this community, this school community. And then the big one is the Walnut Park, which is on, as you're looking at this picture, it would be on the rear side to the east of the building. Walnut Park is the road that runs parallel to 150 Jackson Road. It's in tough shape. You'll see if you look at the latest PCI report, you'll notice that DPW and their consultants have identified it as a road certainly worthy of investment. And because we are doing the project in its direct proximity and a walking route, it makes a lot of sense for us to tackle that. So we're going to be doing that over this summer, which I think is going to be a big benefit to Lincoln Elliott School, but also to our direct abutters and to anybody who's visiting. That's the Lincoln Elliott project. Again, huge thank you to Tommy Rooney, who's our lead project manager on this one, supported by Alex Valcarci and Vic Imperato, who joined us last year. Coming over to the Cooper Center project. So we are on track to open in the this coming fall. Right now it's trending towards November, maybe early November, somewhere in there. For folks that haven't been by, the masons are making short work of the facade. We have, as you can see the screen here, we have all of our bases installed. We've got a lot of our east facade and our south facade brick is up. Our roof is complete. Our cupola is on. You go inside the building and we've got almost all the internal insulation in. We've got a lot of spaces that are fully drywalled. I would say in the next 2 weeks, you're going to see the interior pretty much completely drywalled. And all of our mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection subs are hustling in there. The spaces are really coming together. They're very well defined. The gymnasium is beautiful. It's got a lot of exposed wood beams in the ceiling. The walking track is wonderful. The deck is beautiful. We're getting a lot of positive feedback. I do just want to take a moment to thank the Newtonville community, the business community, the neighbors. We're doing a lot on a small site, and it's a challenge. People have been very patient. We've kept those lines of communication open in both directions. We've been as responsive as we can. I think all in all, we've received very little complaints from the community, but I think that is a combination of hard work from a communication standpoint. But then I also just want to recognize that I think it's also neighbors just, just acknowledging that there's going to be impacts from construction, and they're being very patient. And I really do appreciate that. Same thing with the businesses. We've tried extremely hard not to impact the businesses, and I don't think we have in any way. But we've been very cognizant of that, and we've heard no negative feedback, which is, I think, huge considering the scope of the work and its proximity. So we are over here. We are in a good spot from a schedule and budget standpoint. We have our furniture bid was put out. We're going through the process of awarding that and getting our furniture procured, our technology procured. So we really are on the home stretch on this one as well. I'm really looking forward to opening this building this fall. This was a hard one, I'll be honest. Over 500 public meetings over 8 years. So I'm going to be very happy to see this one open. And on this one, another thank you to Tom Rooney, our lead project manager, supported by Vic Imperato and Alex Valcarci as well. Coming down to Countryside, so if anybody's been down that way, the Countryside School project has gotten going over the last probably 3 or 4 weeks now. So we have our construction fence up. We did, over April vacation, we did some mobilizing work to create a new van drop-off loop in front of the school, which allowed us to move our construction fence around to really take over the full phase 1 of the site, which is where the new building is going to go. So the construction fence is up, the temporary work is completed. We've been working with Beth Herlihy, the principal, and her team for quite some time. Beth is awesome. We love working with her. Her staff, I think, are excited. And this is another one. We're going to be doing a site-occupied elementary school construction project. This is very common throughout the country. It's not as common in Newton, and we recognize that. And there are inherent challenges that come up when you're doing this. So I just want to, one of the biggest challenges we're already experiencing, and that is that we had to take over the staff parking lot, and that means that that more staff are parking in the streets. And there's going to be, and there always are, some growing pains when you do that. Councillor Kalis, I appreciate your morning walks and keeping us informed out there. He's given us some great feedback, and Beth has jumped right on that, as has our team. We have a pilot parking program out there, and we're making adjustments and making sure we're communicating effectively with the teachers. At the same time, some positive reinforcement and encouragement of behavior for our parents as well, to make sure that during drop-off and pickup that they're being friendly to our neighbors, say on an Andrews Street, for example. So that is going to be something that we continue to work on. We're still settling in over there. This summer, we're going to be drilling our geothermal wells. That is, aside from this shift where we're putting more cars in the streets, drilling in the field is probably going to be the most impactful thing that we do from, to the neighborhood. It's loud, and there's really no good way around that. It's going to last about 8 weeks. It's going to be done during the day. We're not doing any off-hour drilling. We'll try to mitigate as much as we can, but it's loud. And I've been very honest with the community about that. And I will communicate that very hard when we get closer. I'll also say that on all of our projects, I mentioned this last year, we do a lot more certified mailing now to make sure that we're really connecting with the community, especially up front, to make sure we're establishing a good project email listserv, but we do it at critical points throughout the project as well. So that'll be another tool that we continue to utilize. Just a reminder on the schedule. So the Countryside School project, starting now, we're going to continue with phase 1, which is the construction of the new school over the next roughly 18 months. We're looking at probably a February of 2027 move-in. It could be over the holiday break, but schools typically prefer February, but we'll figure that out when we get closer. And then after the students move in, we will then go to phase 2, which is hazmat and abatement and demolition of the school and creation of the new fields. That will continue until the summer of 2027 before we turn over the entire site to Newton Public Schools for the start of the fall 2027 school year. Skip down to Horace Mann. So the Horace Mann School project, as I mentioned, in Countryside, I want to thank Vic Imperato, because Vic, now that he's been here for a year, gets to take point on the Countryside School project. He'll be backed up by Tommy Rooney, who's our other project manager, as well as Alex and myself. But Vic is a great guy. He's going to do amazing work down there, I know. So Horace Mann School project, just a high-level refresher. This project is going to build a little over 20,000 square foot addition. You can see it here in the picture, and then some modest renovations in the existing building, as well as, you know, some site work to boot. So we've got a new playground and basketball courts and some landscaping grading happening. The project has already been bid out. We are in a good place from a budget standpoint. We are in a good place from a schedule standpoint. The contractor is already mobilizing out there. They're going to get their work started here very quickly. We've already communicated with Mark Nardelli, Principal Nardelli, and his staff. We're, same thing, going to stay in close contact. The real primary focus here is going to be between now and when school gets out. We needed to get going in order to meet the schedule, which I'll talk about in one sec. But that meant that we had to start work before school got out. And that was something that Principal Nardelli actively asked us to do, because they want to make really sure that we're done with the project before they need to move back in the fall of 2026. So project schedule. Like I said, we're starting now. We're gonna get the site fenced in. We'll start stripping topsoil. We'll start doing our foundation work while the school year's wrapping up. And then as soon as the school year's done, we are going to move the students from 225 Nevada, the former Carr School, over to 191 Pearl, the former Lincoln Elliott School. And then for about 15 months, so this summer, the whole next school year, and the following summer, we will complete the addition and the renovation of the Horace Mann School before moving the students back in the fall, for the start of the fall of the 2026-2027 school year. So this project is going to be managed by Tommy Rooney, because we'll be wrapping up Lincoln Elliott. He will then run point here, backed up by Vic Imperato, Alex, and myself. Franklin School, they just keep coming. So the Franklin School project, this one is lagging Countryside just by a bit, which that's by design. It's not that they're behind. So we are right now at about what we call 90% construction documents. I believe towards the end of next month, we're going to be going to the design review committee for a final review before we put it out to bid. We're already in the process of pre-qualifying general contractors and file some bid contractors. We will be bidding this project out over the summer and starting work in probably September of this year. Again, this is going to be a site-occupied project, meaning that the Franklin School students will stay in the building. The primary difference between this and Countryside is that the staff parking lot here will remain in operation for the duration of phase 1. So some staff already park in the neighboring streets, but we're not going to be putting any more staff vehicles in the neighboring streets. We'll have to monitor contractor parking for periods of time where they don't have parking on site, but it's going to be less of an impact than over at Countryside. So again, we're going to start this coming fall. Phase 1 will go for about 18 months. And then we will move into phase 2. So at the end of phase 1, the students will move from the old Franklin School into the new Franklin School. The staff will start using the new parking lot. We'll shift our construction fence. We'll do the hazmat demo abatement, and we'll demolish the building. We'll do a bunch of site grading and infill, create the new fields, and that will all be completed by the start of the 2027 school year. So by the fall of 2027. So while Franklin is just a little lagging behind Countryside, ultimately they will both be complete by the same time, that being the fall of 2027. This project is going to be managed by Tom Rooney, backed up by Vic Imperato, Alex, and myself. So those are our big capital projects. We have lots of other smaller ones, and not to take anything away from them, but that's the big stuff. So I'm going to stop sharing that. Does anybody have any questions just on the big capital projects before I move on to other documents?
Wow, unbelievable. That's okay, listen.
So I noticed that you have Tom on, I think, 4 of the 5 completing. Is that too much, or is that normal?
Well, nothing is normal right now because this is not normal. The truth is that for folks probably remember Paul Farolito. He was a wonderful project manager we had. He retired, and we struggled to find a replacement for Paul. It's a tough sector. Construction is still booming out there. It's slowing in some sectors, but not in others. People with the experience that we're looking for are making $250,000, $300,000 a year. It's very difficult to attract those kinds of people. My bread and butter, the people that I have done well with over the years, are the people who have already done their whole private sector career. They're in their late 50s. They're looking to get out of the rat race, maybe do a little less traveling. You know, they've still got lots of energy and they want to get things done, but they don't want to be driving all over the East Coast or you know, catching red eyes. So eventually Vic Imperato fell into our lap. It worked out extremely well. But because of that lag, Tommy Rooney had to get put on a lot of these projects. What you'll find in the public buildings department is that we all work together on every project. We're always cycling through. But from my perspective, from a management perspective, you have to have a point person. You just have to. Somebody's got to own it. The buck's got to stop with somebody. But what I will say is the Lincoln Elliott project that Tommy's on is going to wrap up by the end of June, really early June, actually. So that'll come off his books. The Cooper Center project is going to wrap up this fall. So in the next 6 months or so, 2 of those projects are going to come off his plate. The theory behind having him run point for Horace Mann and Franklin is, quite frankly, just geography. They're close to one another, and Countryside feels like many miles away. So it made sense to have Vic Imperato down there and keep Tommy, who's got more experience. He's more capable of taking on 2 projects at the same time.
Right.
Yep.
Yes. No, so I guess we could move on to the next thing.
Okay, perfect. I think what I will do is
They're together.
share this screen.
Yeah. Both of them at the end. Both of them at the end. Yeah, we put them all separately. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to go through every one of these because I haven't counted them, to be honest with you. There's hundreds and hundreds of lessons learned. But I'm going to go down to the bottom of each of these categories and just kind of read through some of these. So just to give you a flavor of what we look at. So a couple of them right here. This is the energy category. We're finding that with Teddy and Berto and electrification, air leakage has the largest impact on building energy consumption by far. You need a very tight envelope, and that's different than a very efficient envelope. You want a very efficient envelope, but it has to be very tight. So we do blower air door testing. We have a very robust set of specifications in our plans. But this is something that I highlight to all of our design teams right from the beginning. And I make it clear to our contractors that we're going to be testing on the other end, because that improves their quality from start to finish.
Josh,
This
can
other-
you page a little bit bigger?
And what page are you on?
We can't really reach it. If
You
you want,
can't, are you seeing the screen with energy right here?
yeah, because we can't really read
It's too
it.
small.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's better.
That better?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I was just reading the energy air leakage right here.
Hold on one second,
So,
Commissioner.
so Commissioner, I just want to ask you, because you don't have to walk through all of these, I'm sure they're very informative and you learn a lot, but how do you use the learnings? Because you just referred to it, do you start the project and say, you know what, this is a project that's gonna have a particular issue with X, let's look at our learnings and walk them through with the team, is that, how do you use this document?
So it's a great question, Councilor Kalis. Believe it or not, I make our design teams read all of these lessons learned before they do business with us. Every single one of them. And that may seem arduous, but it's, you know, even if it takes them a day, these projects from start to finish take years. And if it takes them a day to read through the lessons learned, if 3 of those lessons learned stick and we don't have to reinvent the wheel, or they, you know, that it really hits home, it pays dividends down the road. But I also, in addition to making them read it, I draw on this stuff throughout every project. You know, you'll see in there, you know, don't install light fixtures where you can't reach them, and limit the number of lamps that you have in a particular building. Like, they seem like small, simple things, but man, I'll tell you, there are so many electrical engineers out there that the electricians and the maintenance teams just curse them when they see what they've done. And it looks great. I'm sure it looks wonderful on Architecture Digest, but don't put lights 30 feet in the air if the lift only goes 20 feet. What are you doing to us? So it's an important document. And I also think there's also a lot of value in just the action of documenting those lessons learned. Because for me, it sticks in my head better. And for my team, it sticks in our head better. It's a good opportunity for us at the end of each project to kind of come together and say, what did we learn? How can we improve? And documenting that, discussing it, I think it's healthy and it's good for the team. It makes us better. It makes us challenge ourselves with each and every project.
That's great. That's
yeah.
how we use it in business as well, and although you tend to use it a lot more, which is great. But that's exactly what we should be doing, and I think it's a great lesson for all of us for all of our departments.
Yeah. And just to put people's mind at ease, I was not going to go through any more than that. I wanted to give one example so that I could show you what it is, because we'd be here for days if I went through them all. The lesson 75 list, same thing. There's a million of them on there. I'm not going to go through every one of those. If you have particular questions, let me know. I'm going to jump right to the budget. And so there's a few things that I would point out on the budget, and I can share screen just so that I have it and I can pull it up if folks would like me to.
Yeah, we'll wait for your book to come out.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you retire and you publish all this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. If I publish a book about my time in Newton, it will have far more than my lessons learned. Put it that way.
You know, Josh, I'm a little worried about that.
No, there's some really good stories. Someday when it's not a late night, I'll tell you.
Alright, that's enough.
Use pseudonyms.
Yeah, someday I'll tell people about finding empty treasury bags stuffed with the receipts in a dark place in City Hall, but that's another story for another day.
Many years ago.
Many years ago.
Yep. All right, so I'm not pulling up any particular screen here, but There's a few things that I wanted to point out on the public buildings budget document. First of all, you'll see in the org chart, we have the co-director of sustainability, who is now Sam Nyman. That is grayed out. We're going to continue to show this position connected to public buildings. There's going to be a discussion, I believe, next month about creating an independent sustainability department. Even with that, and independent of how that moves forward, this position would show in public buildings in some sort of connected point, because they are so integral to what we do. And I can answer some questions about that if there are any. But big picture on the budget itself, there were a couple changes to the public buildings department, and I would just point these out.
Be a little bigger again? Sorry.
Yep, absolutely. So the first one I'm going to point out is actually salaries. So Bill Ferguson retired, and you'll notice this over here. The less than the minus 77,414. This represents the delta between Bill Ferguson retiring and that position moving into the sustainability department, and then the 3% salary increase that's baked into the various employees from a cost of living standpoint. The other change that I would point out is the Cooper Center. So we are going to be opening the Cooper Center and this fall, as we talked about. So you'll see right on my screen here, we have the Cooper Center cost center. These are custodians who we're going to be hiring. That's the big number. It's 2 different positions. We have a line item for overtime because the custodians, the working theory right now is we'll have a daytime and a nighttime custodian that work Monday through Friday. And then any weekend events and programs would be covered on overtime. So we have a small overtime budget. And then we also have supplies. Cleaning supplies for the new Cooper Center are going to be housed in my budget. Beyond that, you'll notice if you really dug into the details, we've made some minor adjustments to our electricity costs. That's just based on the latest electricity rates. And then I'll point out what is often discussed each school year. Right here at this line, everybody asks me each year, what is this school building maintenance? So it is $786,500. That is water sewer. So public buildings pays for the water sewer that is used in Newton Public Schools. This was done many years ago, and at the time, and I think it rings true today, the water sewer costs were increasing greater than many other expense categories. So it was a bit of an uncontrolled financial liability. And this was moved from Newton Public Schools to the Public Buildings Department to help make Newton Public Schools budget more predictable so that their expenses were a little more controllable. So we absorbed this cost. Those are the big highlights from the budget. Aside from that, it's very small, minor tweaks here and there. Happy to answer any questions you have about the budget itself.
Okay, any questions? Anybody? Anybody online? Council Bixby.
Hi, sorry, I'm over here in the corner, but I just had some questions about the number of buildings that we have as a city.
Yep.
Is that,
What's the question?
how many buildings do we have as a city?
Oh, perfect. So the city of Newton has, I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment. The city of Newton has, I believe it's 88 school and municipal buildings. The exact number varies a little bit because sometimes it depends on, like, are we counting the Walker Center properties? When does the Armory, the West Newton Armory, come off the books? So that you might see like 86 or 84, but directionally that's where we're at. Newton has a lot of buildings. Has a lot of buildings. When you look at the number of buildings per capita, Newton is way up, if not the very top of the list.
That's interesting, thanks. And So there is this category of surplus buildings that looks like
Yep.
the agenda. What are those?
Yeah, no, great question, Counselor. So surplus buildings are things like the former branch libraries, the Brigham House, buildings like that where they're not currently permanently assigned to a department. The utility costs and the maintenance costs have to lie somewhere, so they lie within our budget.
And some of those are used by outside groups either significantly or in some part, or is that some other category?
Nope, that you're 100% right. So, for example, the Woburn Branch Library is used by the Woburn Improvement Society. It's run as a community library. They pay rent, a nominal amount that's prorated, and we're ultimately responsible for the utilities and the maintenance costs of that facility. But same thing, that building is not completely controlled by them. It's used as a polling center, and the basement is actually the Public Buildings Department wood shop, which was formerly in the old tool shed, I believe the Alms House over in Nahan, which no longer exists. So we had to put it somewhere.
Thanks, that's really interesting.
Thanks, Ed.
My pleasure.
We've been joined by Counselor Greenberg, and she has a question.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Commissioner. The Lincoln Elliott community and the Horace Mann community are so excited about these school openings, and I appreciate all your hard work on that. And I also appreciate all your social media presence. I enjoy looking at your emails and your Facebook posts and your videos. It really helps keep the public informed, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We had a gentleman here putting up his art exhibit in City Hall who lives on, is it Walnut Place?
Yep.
Yeah, and Walnut Park, I thought he said place, oh, never mind. And his comment was, he lives right next door to the Cooper Center. And he was so appreciative, I guess is the best word, of the way we have dealt with the neighbors. And he said it's been a big pain in the neck, but it's hard to object because the building is so wonderful and you guys have been so great. I had a nice conversation with him about it.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. I really do, because we take great pride in applying the golden rule that we all learned in kindergarten to the work that we do in the Public Buildings Department. It's very important to me that I'm treating, and that my whole team is treating our neighbors the same way we would want to be treated if we lived next door.
We should ask him to do a pen and ink of the new Cooper Center. He's got them.
They're spectacular.
Yeah, they are. You can't see them.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Just one.
Josh, I share everything that Councilor Greenberg just said, but I also just want to say, I have not gotten a single complaint. Except at the very, very beginning where there was some disruption and there was a few rodents or something. But it was that 2 years ago now, and it just, to your credit, that we haven't had anyone complain about there's a lot going on in that area. And it's just to your credit that you do such a great job managing these projects and keeping people informed. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you. It really is all about communication. I can't make it, it is that simple. You just have to communicate effectively. You have to communicate in multiple means. You have to communicate how people want to receive communication. And it sounds like we might be starting to get towards the end of the evening. So before we get there, and I'm happy to answer any other questions, but I just want to go through my high level thank yous. First of all, we are, as I mentioned, we're doing work everywhere, and there are literally thousands of residents who have helped us on all of these projects combined get to where we are. I'm self-aware. I recognize I'm out there. I'm the face of the department, but I'm not able to do what I do without the hard work of lots of residents, lots of volunteers, whether they be appointed or unofficial. Our city councilors, almost every city councilor is either in a ward that's being impacted or has served or is serving on building committees or working groups or other committees. that are directly or indirectly related to the project. You all have made it better. You know, pat yourselves on the back too, because the communication, I also recognize that when I send out communications to the city council, you're including that in your newsletters and your email correspondence. And that's helping to keep the community informed. And that's part of the reason why the community is not up in arms when they probably should be, because we've got so much work happening everywhere. But you know, between all of them, our school committee members, Emily Brenner has served forever on all of our committees. You know, our staff in public buildings, the Newton Public Schools, and Liam's whole team. I know he's on this evening, listening in. Liam, thank you so much to Newton Public Schools, from the principals to the staff in the schools to all the central admin. It is a huge team effort over many, many years. I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands of public meetings over the last 8 years to get us to this point. There's so many thank yous to go around. Our design review committee, our designer selection committee, groups that you don't even think of, our law department, our purchasing department, the print shop downstairs at City Hall. They all play huge parts along the way in making this all happen. It's a tremendous team effort, and I just can't thank everybody enough. So,
Commissioner Morse, I have a sense that we should probably be thanking not just you, but your family.
I do thank my family a lot, yes.
We thank your family. President
I'm
Laredo.
happy to move approval.
Okay, so President Laredo has moved approval on all three items.
Absolutely.
And we should vote them separately, I guess. Well, let's talk about the budget first. The budget number is $6,878,430. Is that right? That's what you said. So that's the budget, and that's 8125. So President Laredo's moved approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, that's a straw vote. And the capital improvement plans, 35124 and 8225. You also move approval of those items? So we have a motion for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that's 7-0 on all three. 6-0. 6-0. Oh, we lost Council Danberg. Yeah, 6-0. So thank you very much, Commissioner Morse.
Thank you all very much.
Thank Josh.
And I think, the last item, we have to take that last item up. 123-25. There the mayor requesting an authorization to appropriate the sum of $2,525,000 from June 30th free cash. For the purpose of completing a list of priority school facility projects throughout this district. Councilor Kelly, do you have a motion?
I do, because I think we need to discuss this at a later date with other things, I would move to hold this item.
Okay,
So I make that motion.
okay, is there any discussion? So Councilor Kelly is moved hold. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, so our work here is done.
Wow.
It's well prepared. Thank you all.
Very much, everybody.
Good night.